morning, and welcome to Wednesdays with Darren and Cindy, where we bring you real conversation about things that affect our lives and the community. My name is Cindy Ward,
And my name is Darren Powell.
and we are going to be your host for our podcast.
Do you remember what it was like to be a teenager? The transition from childhood to adulthood represents a challenging time for teens. Lacking confidence and regretting past decisions both come with growing up. But when the inner criticism goes unchecked, and it can lead to deeper problems, feeling unworthy and unloved leads to low self-esteem for teens. And low self-esteem contributes to a cycle of decision making that reinforces negative perceptions.
So that brings us today. In today's podcast, we'll address some issues around building self-esteem in teens. We're joined today on Darren and Cindy weekly conversation by Mr. Lefebre and Miss Tita. All right, can you introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure, my name is Henry Hank Lefebre, and I'm the principal here at Zama Middle High School. I've been an administrator this is my 9th year as administrator, and I've been an administrator of both elementary school and a middle high school. I've been working with children for over 25 years, and in addition to that, I am still a reservist, so I maintain my active connection to the military. Been doing that for 30 years, so a lot of background there.
Whoa.
Hi, my name is LaTasha Tita, and I'm the assistant principal here at Zama Middle High School. I've been at Zama for about a year and 3 months, so I'm kind of new to the administrative side of the house, but I'm not new to education. I have a background in chemistry, so I was a chemist for the first part of my career, and then I went to teach others about the STEM careers. So then I got a master's in chemistry education, and from there I've went into policy. So I've worked at the HQ and state level, implementing science curriculum, policy, and standards. I've also worked in the district, Europe South, in Vicenza, where I also helped to implement science curriculum and standards. And now I wanted to try my task here at the middle high school, where I'm able to really work with students, set their pathways as they move into college and career readiness.
That is amazing. Do you hear this diversity and this background they have here at this administration? Very impressive, right?
I like it.
So I already know that they can give us some good tips on self-esteem, especially
Yes.
for the children.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And that leads right into our first question. I'm gonna read the definition of self-esteem and allow you both an opportunity to kind of and through your experience and your knowledge, give us a little bit of how you can add to that definition. So the definition is self-esteem is an individual's subjective evaluation of its own worth. Self-esteem encompasses beliefs about oneself as well as emotional states, such as triumphs, despair, pride, and shame. And we'll let you have it from there.
What would you guys add to the definition? Through the lens of your experience and your education over the years, what would you add?
I would add how to deal with how to deal with triumph and despair and pride and shame. That's that self-esteem, that self-awareness of how I am able to deal with each of those emotional gambits.
Yeah, so here at the high school, I get to handle discipline. So I get to see the students at different states. Usually they do come into my office, maybe a little shameful, maybe in a little despair because they've been implicated in something or they have a concern that they're bringing to me. And a lot of times I'm gauging their self-esteem where they're at. And what I find is, I have an opportunity to counsel with them and to really connect the different parts of them. And what I find is although they come to my office, whatever it's for, I always try to make sure that I'm building their self-esteem, helping them to make decisions with me. So, okay, this may be what happened. How do we change it? How do we deal with this, maybe a peer who has called your name or a peer who maybe didn't say something to you very nice. So again, we're looking at ways to help them to own it, as Hank said, and how to get them to then build a self-image that allows them to deal with things that may be difficult or things that they don't like. So
like
we get an opportunity to really connect with the kids, even when they're at their somewhat lower points.
Connection.
Yes.
I like that. The connection is really good. So, Mr. Lefebre, and can I call you Hank?
Sure.
Okay, I just wanted to ask since, Miss Tita called you Hank. You've worked with both elementary and high school children, okay? What age group do you find that the children started to hone in on their sense of self?
Oh my goodness. So Miss Tita and I both have young children, and I'm sure she can attest to the same thing that I've witnessed. And it's not even so working with children, you don't have to be an educator. You just kind of be around them. And I'm sure she can attest to the same thing that my children at kindergarten and in Sure Start were telling me, Daddy, I'm not very good at. So that self-awareness of what you're good at starts at the very early age. My daughters one of them was telling me that she was not very good at math, and that's something that we've continued to battle to this day. The other one, I'm not very good at drawing. Again, and so they're very self-aware at a very early age, man. Would you say?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I would even take it down to my 2-year-old. She knows what she wants and how she wants it. So I call her Boss Baby because she is very aware of what she wants. But kind of like Hank said, as he said with his children, you realize that they have different personalities, and you really want to grow them as an individual and not as what I think you should be. And that's something that we really look at here at our school. We have our 7th graders coming in, a lot of them coming straight from the elementary school, and they're pushed into going to 1 class a day to 7 classes a day. And so when my students come and visit me, I talk to them about how are you feeling about it, and they talk to me about how they feel about it. I see some of them are very high strung and woohoo, and I have some that are introverts who are kind of a little bit more shy and reserved, and just making sure that we as administrators, Hank and I, really when students see us when we're walking across the campus, just making sure that we connect with them so that they know they are valued at whoever they are, whether they're introvert or whether they the extrovert.
That's good.
As a psychotherapist myself, working with a lot of teens, a lot of times kids would come in and they're 13, 12, 15, and the parents, I always have the parents in the process, but have that relationship with the kid individually. And that being said, a lot of parents are shocked that their kids have these issues with self-esteem because they have this real tight together family. They got this system, and it's like we don't even know how that happened. So, what would be some of the warning signs to that parent for that parent?
So I take that one. So again, I do get to see a lot of the kids for different things, and I think what parents. And even myself, sometimes I struggle. Like I see one child at home and there's somewhere else and there seem to be a different child. So I do, whenever I'm talking with kids, especially if they're dealing with something, often I do try to include the parents as much as possible. Also, we have school psychologists, MFLAC and ASAC counselors on the grounds. And we also encourage the students that, sometimes they may not feel comfortable speaking with the administrator about things. But if a student comes into my office and I can see somewhat of a red flag or something that doesn't seem to be bothering them, then I try myself, if I cannot connect with them, then I speak with the parent or either speak with the counselor in a way to really help them, because I want them to culture who they are and be happy with who they are. Because a lot of times, if you like, your hair, you like your statue, you like, playing Minecraft, or you like flying kites, the more you like it and appreciate it, usually you begin to fall in love with yourself and love yourself. So really helping them to connect.
I would say, it's that change, it's that small change of this is the norm, and then something is different from that norm. It may not even be something big, it might be something minor. And what we've tried to establish at my home is a kind of a share out during dinner. And it's the culture that we're building in our family is, just, hey, how was your day? And a fine or okay or the simple answers aren't allowed. So it is the no, so tell us more. What was something good about the day? What was something bad about the day? So it's that building the trust of a student or building the trust of a child to be able to open up to their parents in a safe place, so that they'll, when they have issues, they feel safe to talk to you about it. And I think in in today's society, sometimes it's easy to gloss over the day's events. How was the day? Fine. Okay, I asked. Check the box.
That's so true.
Let's go on about eating. And then when something happens, then it's when you get the, oh my gosh, I never knew I never knew they had an issue. Well,
yeah, that's so true. So what are the warning signs? How can a parent know if their child is experiencing low self-esteem? What are the warning signs that you guys see here at the school? Because sometimes we don't know here at home, because I am a parent of a child here at the high school. So
so some of the warning signs that I have seen is usually a change in behavior.
Okay.
So if you have a student who's an introvert, who's usually kind of quiet and reserved, and all of a sudden they start acting out, that would be a warning sign that I've seen. Or vice versa, you may see students who try to be like someone else. They begin to behave in a different manner than what you're used to. So those are some warning signs that I've seen. Sometimes the students go through things.
I have to concur with that. It's that change of behavior, something that's normal. So again, what's normal in your house, what's normal of your child. So they usually spend an hour or two on the computer, whether it's watching videos, playing games, whatnot. When that becomes all they want to do, something has changed to make that child want to spend that much time doing something that they normally don't. So it's those subtle changes of behavior that an attuned parent will catch or pick up on.
And I do want to add, and because we do have a middle high school, I try my best to connect with the middle school parents a little bit more, because the students are going through that very intricate time of, being a adolescent, moving into those teenage years, and they're really trying to even figure out their sexuality and things of the sort. So they have a lot of things on the table. They're trying to figure out, going into high school, what they want to take. And so there's some teenage changes that will happen, but I also caution parents, be aware, because their bodies are changing, their minds are changing, they're becoming, somewhat more mature. And this will be a critical time as they're in that middle school, transition to the high school, to be aware of their behaviors. Some are just natural behaviors that will change, but if you see a behavior that's really off the Richter scale, I would begin to try to connect and see what's happening with the child.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, back to me as a therapist, and not. But I'm asking y'all.
Correctly?
No, I love that. No, you guys are teaching me for sure, because I'm on a whole different side of it. But one thing that I do when I'm working with kids is, we all know everybody has their coping mechanisms, and how those coping mechanisms come out with a teenager, I find it very diverse. I mean, sometimes kids withdraw, sometimes kids do a lot of things, but there's a lot of acting out that goes on with that. And I think that you guys you get the blunt of it here versus what parents are getting, because some situations at home are so restrictive, they don't really get to see who, like you said earlier, who the child really is. So that being said, as far as their coping mechanisms, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see that a kid maybe with low self-esteem that you've had experience with, especially in your seat?
So again, I just said, because I handle discipline, a lot of times I will see things, because the counselor is also feeding things into me, because the students may come to them. We do have suicide risk assessments here, especially with COVID. We've seen those kind of go up, which deals with students' self-esteem. We also deal with, I can say probably our biggest thing that hits students' self-esteem is online media. Because they're in chat groups, they're in Minecraft, they're in many places. And I do see kids kind of change due to someone calling them a name that's not them. And when that happens, when I get an opportunity to counsel with them, and even when the counselors counsel with them, often I try to get them to recenter on who they are. And because somebody told you a story, is it true? And we begin to talk through it. And I try to get them to really hone in on, what matters most to them, and what do they see good in themselves right now. And I have had students come to my office and just like, oh, I'm lazy, I'm bad, and they're using these very negative words against themselves. And I say to them, but what is the good part? What is the successful part? And again, that one session may not change it, but that's the reason why we have continued support through counselors. And we also have ceremonies for the kids to uplift them academically. Hank and I walk around the campus and talk to kids and try to connect with them that way as well. So some of the coping mechanisms are looking at the good in yourself.
I would echo that. And it's really it's breaking the cycle.
Okay.
The negative self-esteem. Everyone has a bad day, but normally when they get to our point, it's a thing that had started in the elementary school. I'm not good at.
Yeah.
I've been told I'm not, and by the time we get to them, they've heard this for years, or they've had this negative feeling about themselves. They've had low self-esteem for years. So when we get them, it's tough to break that cycle. It's tough to get them to see, hey, I do have some positive values that I can offer. So.
And can I just add, just one thing we do have is we call the first about 15 minutes of seminar, we have self-advocacy, where the students are going in, looking at their grades, and then they go off and they advocate for themselves. Like if I'm not doing good in math, then I go to my math teacher. If I'm not doing well in social studies, I go to that teacher. So academically, we're also trying to teach them how self-advocacy and how to advocate for themselves as well.
I like
So,
that. I like
yes.
that self-advocacy.
Yeah, and part of it too is I think everyone has the model. I should be a straight A student. I should be.
That's true.
We have that model, and trying to live up to that perfection is very hard. So one of my mantras is that you don't have to be a straight A student. It's nice if you are, but you have to know where your strengths and weaknesses are. And the bottom line is that you have to finish this program. But you don't have to finish it straight A's. So do your best in some of those areas that you aren't good at, but celebrate the things that you are good at.
True.
So don't hold yourself to an example that you'll never or will be very hard for you to get or feel bad about not reaching.
Right.
Yeah.
How would you say a kid can kind of figure that one out? Because that kind of segues into our next question, which is, well, what kind of advice would you give a parent? And let's say you put your parent hat on now. Okay. When you're dealing with that child that's going through these life changes and these, kind of all this kind of stuff, trying to find themselves, how do you build them up? How do you find those strengths and weaknesses and without discouraging them?
Well,
things that maybe
I tell people it's really be gentle with yourself. Even parents, parents come in and they're all frantic, like, and I say, no worries. We're parents. We're not superhumans. And, we try to work with them, but also giving the parents the okay to let's just say fail. I always tell people that's how they failed millions of times before they flew the airplane. Before we got the internet, there was failures. Science is failure. That's the reason why we find things, because we failed at something. And even for the students, I always tell them we try to resolve things at the lowest level possible. So even if you make a mistake, it's okay. Pick yourself back up. You have plenty of life to live. You have the rest of the day to go through. But making them see it's okay to fail or to make a bad decision, and then restore. How do I restore you? So I always tell a parent, I'm not here to crush a student. I'm not here to crush my own kids, but I also want to restore them. So once you've served, met the consequence, then you're restored. You're back to your original self, shall I say. And even when students come here, sometimes they'll say, oh, Miss Tita, and they, I'm not in trouble again. I'm like, no, we're good. You've met the consequence, and now you're restored. And I think that restoration, or that you're not bad because something you made a bad choice, but you're fine. It's okay. You learn from it, right? Okay, good. And the accountability, just making them accountable. And even with parents, something I always tell parents, I know we're kind of in the age where parents want to be friends, and there's nothing wrong with having a good communication with your student, but you do have to have the boundaries, and you have to make sure they have the accountability and boundaries, because then it allows them to know, okay, self-regulate. Okay, I have a boundary. I have to regulate within this boundary.
Yeah, I would again concur. You're stealing all my thunder.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. But I think it's one of those ones where you celebrate even the small victories. And then everyone thrives on positive feedback. So even if it's, okay, you had an F last quarter, you have a D this quarter. Woohoo! You've made some improvement.
Right.
And or you look at certain situations and, okay, so we've had a setback, but that doesn't mean that that's who you are for the rest of your life. It's okay. So how are we gonna improve in the next part?
Right.
So it's the opening that communication, not expecting perfection, and celebrating the small victories.
That's
No,
awesome.
that's good.
That
That's
is
really
so
good.
awesome.
That's super good. As a therapist, and maybe not in this community as much, the teens I worked with in this community last year when I was working as an MFLAC, It was a little different because it's a different environment. But a lot of kids that I've worked with in the past have had their aspirations up, come in and, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And, hey, I want to be a professional football player. I want to be a professional basketball player. I want to be an entertainer, because that's what they're looking up to and seeing on the internet and things like that. What do you do with that kid that has those like, that has never played on a basketball team, but that's their goal because they see other people doing that? And I think we kind of relate to that community. And I say that to say that a lot of parents are kind of confused, and I know that because the work I've done, they're kind of confused about how do you get them to celebrate those small victories, because we live in this world where everybody's validated on some level of success, and whatever that looks like, whatever that means. But I find that parents have the biggest problem with trying to figure that out, and a lot of times they're trying to live their dreams through their kid. And they're pushing them in a certain direction. And sometimes we do have to kind of figure out some ways to get to our kid, figure out what their thing is that they could be successful at, and then celebrate that, and then kind of build them up in that. Do y'all have any examples, experiences, or anything that you might be able to, that might be helpful to a parent in the work you do every day?
Sure. My advice would be, never squash a dream,
Good.
but always offer what is plan B.
Okay.
You're going to be that football star. Outstanding. I love it. I will celebrate. I will be at every game that you're playing at. But what happens if you get injured? What happens if you don't have the grades? What's plan B? What else are you going to be good at? So that way I'm not squashing your dream, but I'm helping set up what happens if the dream doesn't come to fruition.
Yeah. That's good.
And I do absolutely. So that was something my dad taught me when I was very young. He always said, write a plan A and a plan B. Even when I was in middle school, that's how far back he taught me to write a plan A and a plan B. But one thing I do as well is, like he said, let them live the dream. They only have so long before they're 18 and wow, So I always say that allow them to live the dream, but show them different aspects of the dream as well. So there is a football player, but there's also a physical therapist that's on the field. There is a commentator up there broadcasting it. It's someone who's behind the cameras. So I always say, even though you may not be the one on the field, you can help the production go.
Wow.
And I always tell, even when I was little, I was like, well, I'm gonna be at Disney World working, right? I'm gonna be Minnie Mouse. I'm gonna be in the cast. I'm short enough for that. But what I learned was they had engineers. They had engineers who were in the background. They had lightings. They had. I don't think y'all know, Disney has a whole police system, and they have a whole water system.
Oh, wow.
So what I'm saying is that although, I may not be Minnie Mouse, I don't think I would make very much doing that at this age, but at the same time, there are things that, although you may not be the person in the limelight, you can be someone behind the scenes who's making decisions, making good money, and really living the dream, or helping somebody else live the dream.
That is awesome.
Let me add on to that too. As part of being a realist. So that professional football player this kid wants to be has never played the game, has never lifted a weight, has never run more than a mile. We have to be a little bit real about what it is your expectations are. The one that I've heard a lot is, I'm going to be a professional gamer.
That's huge. That's huge now.
Yeah. So, again, I think a lot of kids don't understand what it takes to become a professional gamer. That doesn't mean I get to sit and play video games and get paid all day. That's the quarterback.
True.
You don't see what it takes to get to that point. So it's the understanding what it is that you're dreaming about, and being real about those dreams. And not being mean, not to squash them, but hey, you realize that this is what it takes.
No, but I think exactly what you said. I think it also takes a parent, or to bring that realization. Like, look, if you're going to do that, look what courses you have to take in college. Oh, well, that means you have to take calculus in high school. So I think a parent can not take it away, but they can be realistic. Well, hey, look, if you're going to be a gamer, you have to A, B, C, D. I always tell people, everybody say, I want to be a medical doctor, but this is what you have to do to be a medical doctor. It doesn't, so I think showing them the pathway does help them to be real. And if they realize, oh, I've never played football, I'm not going to be a professional football player, then they may say, well, you know what, I can do sports medicine, or I can do, videography or something like that. So I do agree. Be realistic with them. Don't squish them, but be realistic with them. And you can show that through, courses that need to be taken, what jobs out there, how much they pay, so on and so forth.
And from a personal standpoint, my daughter wants to be the next Taylor Swift.
Oh, look at that.
She's going to be it.
She's going to be it.
Give me some tickets when she gets there.
Hang on. Taylor Swift plays multiple instruments, takes voice lessons, and probably takes dance lessons.
True.
Sweetheart, do you want to take voice lessons? No thanks, Daddy. Sweetheart, do you want to take piano lessons? No thanks, Daddy. Handwriting's on the wall.
Yes. Yes. See, and that's that realist talking.
Yes.
And bringing it back to them, letting them see you're going to need to take this, that, and the third in order to get to where you need to be.
Absolutely.
That's awesome advice from both of you, for our community. And I know that the parents out there are really going to love this because they need to know what it takes to raise their child's self-esteem, if it is crushed, if it is down, if it is low. So this is really good.
Something else parents can do is adopt a growth mindset with their children. That's something that we've done in our family. All too often, kids say, I can't do it. And the important part to that growth mindset is adding yet to that statement. So I can't do math yet. I can't ride my bike yet. That growth mindset puts a different frame on what a child's thinking. Or if the parents reinforce that, hey, you said I can't, and just add the yet and add that as to the expectation, you can't do that yet. But if we continue to practice and we continue to work on those skills, that helps with that self-esteem and that motivation. And then later on, you can say, remember when you said you can't do this and we said yet? Look at what you can do now.
Perfect.
I tell you, I have to laugh because this weekend we were doing that. Ivo was learning how to ride his bike. And like you said, that was one thing that I kept saying was, you can't ride it right now, but if we practice, you will be able to. So I agree that adding that yet really makes a difference with the kids.
Good. And so
Yeah. And the last thing I want to say, I just want to thank you guys for what y'all do every day. And I'm always at awe because, my job is so easy. It's focused. I do one job. You guys do my job every day. And I salute you guys because, again, I always say a lot of people counsel. I get paid to do it, But just thank you for what you guys do every day because it's so valuable. And as parents, I'm a parent and my daughter's 18, getting ready to graduate during this time. And she's so, less than assured what her path is at this point, and I'm thinking she should be really there. But having said that, there's so many people every day that just kind of are sewing into her life, and I just appreciate you guys and so many kids' self-esteem more so than us as parents because I'm the parent. The person that she's seeing every day is the people that she really just kind of responds to and listens to, and I thank y'all for what y'all do. And Zama's so lucky to have you guys on board.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. Well, Zama, that's Wednesdays with Darren and Cindy, and we had our guests, Mr. Lefebre and Miss Tita, with us today. And we just want to say thank you for listening to our 100% real life topics, and we will see you next week.